Hi everyone and welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
And we're on day 2 of our article about Rwanda, the country in East Africa. Yesterday we talked a lot about its landscape. It has rolling hills, mountains, nice lakes, this really dramatic landscape.
Absolutely. But even though it's quite a popular place these days, a popular tourist destination, 20 or 30 years ago they had a great tragedy in Rwanda. We're going to be finding out more about that today. But for us, in the modern world, it's a great place to visit if you want to see animals. They have animals, especially gorillas, one of the rarest animals to see, one of the animals few visitors to Africa ever get a chance to see. But if you want to see them, Rwanda is the place to go.
Yeah, the population really recovered after the war in the last sort of few years. There are now 1,000, whereas before there were only a few hundred.
That's right.
And in the Akagera National Park, there are also lions, buffalo, leopards, elephants. And thanks to environmental groups, they're all making a comeback. So there's more of them now than there were before. And this money from tourism is really helping the country.
That's right, yeah. So if you're going to go there, not only will you have a great holiday, but the money that you spend will help to build schools and hospitals and make life for the people of Rwanda a little bit better every day. And that's, of course, what we can hope for countries that have had, a tough time like Rwanda. So today we're going to be looking at the country, but moving maybe from the countryside into the cities a little more, because there's more to Rwanda than just gorillas in the mist.
Yep, and we're going to learn about that and also about, we'll mention the tragedy that happened. So let's read through the article and find out more.
Reading.
Rwanda, Africa's land of 1,000 hills. Most journeys through Rwanda begin and end at its capital, Kigali. Even for those eager to see the country's nature, this city has its own adventures. Stick around and you'll experience great food, an excellent coffee culture, and a sobering lesson about the nation's dark past. Located a short drive from downtown, the Kigali Genocide Memorial remembers one of the most horrific events in human history. From April to July 1994, an estimated 800,000 people were slaughtered in the Rwandan genocide. Most of them were members of the Tutsi tribe, Rwanda's largest minority group. The memorial serves as both a museum and the final resting place of 250,000 victims. Within the past 26 years, Kigali has turned itself into one of the cleanest and safest cities in Africa. Plastic bags aren't allowed, and there's high-speed public Wi-Fi as well as car-free zones where locals can hang out. At lunchtime, Kigali's restaurants serve mouth-watering dishes like akabenz, a pork dish known as the Mercedes-Benz of meat. Meanwhile, Kigali's rooftop cafes are the perfect place to watch the sunset. Take in this incredible view, and you'll understand the locals' favorite saying, "God spends the day elsewhere, but he sleeps in Rwanda."
All right, so our article for today takes us back to the capital city. This is probably where you would land if you were visiting there. The biggest airport would be there in the capital city, so it's a good place to start your trip. It says most journeys through Rwanda begin and end at its capital, Kigali. Of course, you could probably drive out of the country, but that might take a long time over some rough roads, so flying in and out through the city, the capital city of Kigali, would certainly be the easiest way to visit and then to leave.
Yeah, and the article goes on to say, even for those eager to see the country's nature, this city has its own adventures. Now here we've used the pronoun those to mean people, and in this case, those people who are eager to see the country's nature. We can cut out the word people, we can cut out the relative pronoun who, and even the be verb are to make this sentence shorter. And we do this just to make it easier to read, cut out words that are kind of fairly obvious by the context of the sentence. So, for example, we could say, instead of those students who are interested in this special class, please talk to your teachers, and change that to those interested in this special class, please talk to your teachers. So this is just a way we can kind of make speech and writing a bit shorter and often a bit clearer by removing some words that are fairly obvious by their context and not needed to make the sentence complete.
All right, so those who are eager or those eager to see the country's nature. Either way, you're talking about being eager, and that means to be enthusiastic, to be keen, to be really excited about something that is probably going to be happening in the near future. It's going to be happening soon. You're ready for it. You've maybe been looking forward to it. You're very excited, and you can't wait for it to happen. You're very keen, enthusiastic, or eager. Or maybe you're not. Like our example sentence says, I'm not really keen or I'm not really eager to go out today. It's cold and it's raining. Yeah, well, sometimes we have to do things that we don't really want to do, and that's when you're not feeling eager, but sometimes you still have to.
Okay, so people, of course, will be eager to see the nature of Rwanda, the parks, the mountains, and so on. But the city of Kigali has its own adventures. An adventure is an exciting and possibly even a dangerous experience. It's going to be something you talk about for years to come. Maybe you will learn something or it'll change you in some way. But it's certainly something you're not going to forget about. And it's something you could even plan for, like, oh, I really want to have this adventure. I'm going to go on an adventure. For example, we could say canoeing down the Amazon River would be a real adventure. Yeah, you'd see amazing things. You'd see beautiful trees and animals. You might be in a bit of danger from the currents, from some of those animals, things like that. But it would certainly be a memorable experience. It would be exciting. And the danger would kind of make it even more exciting and memorable.
Absolutely, absolutely. Adventures are good as long as you survive them. Otherwise, they're not so good. But it says back at the article, stick around Kigali, and you'll experience great food and excellent coffee culture and a sobering lesson about the nation's dark past. So this is the tragedy in the history of Rwanda we'll find out about, but there are other great things to do in the capital, Kigali. If you stick around, if you spend some time in the city, there'll be great food, excellent coffee culture, Rwandan coffee.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, for all of those coffee fans, you definitely have to try a cup or two of that. And this can only happen if you stick around in the city. If you stick around, it basically means you stay. You might have opportunities to go. Other people might have chosen to leave or go off to another place, but you're like, no, I'm having a good time. I think I'll stay here. I'll stick around. We often use this when we're talking about our plans or events of the day. You know, I went to my friend's party and a few people left early, but I decided to stick around for the birthday cake or something like that. I decided to stay and not leave when I had the choice or the option of leaving.
That's right. And so, yeah, Kigali has got great food in it. It's got great coffee in it. But there is also sobering lessons about the nation's past, this tragedy we keep kind of mentioning. Something that is sobering has a serious, sad, or maybe even a tragic nature that makes people stop having quite as much fun and take something more seriously. For example, if you're all having a good time, you're having a laugh, and then someone says, I've got some bad news, you know, a friend of mine just got COVID-19, this would be a sobering piece of news. Everyone would stop joking and stop laughing, and you'd maybe kind of come together and support that person or talk about how things could be better. But it would change the mood from a light mood to a kind of heavy, serious mood. And that's what a sobering thing does.
Definitely. So it's something you need to pay attention to because it might be sad, but it's still quite important. And where would we find out more about this sobering event or this sobering lesson from Rwanda's past? It says, located a short drive from downtown, the Kigali Genocide Memorial remembers one of the most horrific events in human history. Yes, in human history, not just in Rwandan history. We're going to find out more, but it was definitely horrific as a genocide is. What is a genocide? Basically, it's a planned killing of a large group of people, probably an ethnic group of some kind, the most well-known and one of the most terrible. I'm not sure you can really rate them as being terrible because they're all terrible, but one of the most well-known would be the genocide of Jewish people by the German Nazi forces or the Nazi forces during World War II. They took all these people who were Jewish, just if you happen to be Jewish, men, women, children, you didn't have to be guilty of anything, just being born a Jew, and they planned to murder them. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't something that just happened in a few places. It was something that was planned out. It was done. A lot of people did it, and even more people died, and that was the goal. The goal was to kill off all of these people. So we have a genocide there. Of course, there have been genocides in other parts of the world, but today we would look at them all as crimes against humanity, and the people who commit them will not be allowed to escape justice.
Right, and it's important that we remember these events, so hopefully they don't happen again.
Never
and for
again.
things like that, you can build a memorial. And a memorial is a building, a statue, or some other structure that is built or placed to mark and remember an event, a battle, a person, a tragedy, something like that. It's a place where people can go, learn about the history, read about the people involved maybe, or just see it and remember that event. That's what it's built for, to make people remember.
And a genocide is, of course, also terrible, awful, really, really, really bad. And another word to describe something terrible, awful, and really, really bad is horrific. It's horrible. You often see that word there. Horror also is a word that we see with a similar root. Horror, horrible, and horrific. Something that shocks people, causes them to almost not believe it because it's so terrible. A tragedy, a catastrophe, a disaster. These are things that we might describe as being horrific. So something that is really, really terrible and awful and should not happen, but unfortunately does sometimes.
Yes, and we're going to find out about what actually happened now. The article says from April to July 1994, an estimated 800,000 people were slaughtered in the Rwandan genocide. So that is a huge and horrific number of people. We have another nasty word to look at here, slaughter. The word slaughter means killed in large numbers, usually in a cruel or violent way. Using weapons, using torture, using things like that. These people weren't sort of killed in like an accident, like an earthquake. We wouldn't say an earthquake slaughters people. People slaughter people, and it's a very mean, nasty, awful thing to do.
Absolutely. Most of the people killed, were members of the Tutsi tribe, Rwanda's largest minority group. It was a tribal thing. There are two large groups in Rwanda, the Tutsis and the Hutus. The Hutus were the tribe that did most of the killing. The Tutsis were the tribe that were mostly killed off. The genocide was committed against the Tutsi tribe. But yes, in Africa and other parts of the world, here in Taiwan, we do have tribes. Of course, there's very rarely violence between these groups these days, but a tribe is basically a smaller, independent or unique ethnic group. So we're talking about native people, Indian people. You might describe them in some parts of the world, Aboriginal people. You might describe them, I think, in Taiwan. There are 15 recognized tribes, the Taya, the Bunun, the Atayal, the Tao, groups like that, the Ame, of course, these different groups. And of course, they would have, back in the old days, they would live in different areas. But even today, they would have different styles of dress, different songs, different languages, different diets as well. Eat different food, get married in different ways, all that kind of stuff. So the things that make them unique, make them different from their neighbors, also make them a tribe. For example, we could say we will have to hike through the jungle for a week to reach the area where this tribe lives. So we could be in the Amazon or in Papua New Guinea or somewhere like that. There are still tribes out there, but of course, as the modern world gets closer and closer, many of these tribes end up moving to towns and lose some of their identity.
Yeah, so we're talking here about the Tutsi tribe, and they were Rwanda's largest minority group. So a minority is a smaller group, and this word is opposite the majority. So the majority is the bigger part of a group. So if you think about Taiwan, most people are, basically ethnically Chinese. Taiwanese, so they are the majority, and people from the Aboriginal groups are a minority. Foreigners from different parts of the world are in minority groups, and so on. So that's what you can think of here as minority and majority. But we don't just need to use it to talk about kind of race or something like that. We can say, for example, in Taiwan, people who smoke cigarettes are in the minority, which means there are more people who don't smoke than people who do.
Interesting. All right, so let's look at this memorial. It says the memorial, just outside the center of Kigali, the memorial serves as both a museum and the final resting place of 250,000 victims. So the museum, of course, will teach people about it. You'll be able to see some relics, some of the pictures and other things from that time. But also, it's a resting place. In other words, it's a very large graveyard where there are actually 250,000 people buried there. So it's a very serious place, a place of great reverence and great sadness, but also a place for people, especially from outside and for the younger generations in Rwanda, to learn of these terrible events, these terrible, horrific crimes, and to also hopefully make sure that it never happens again in the future there or anywhere else.
That's right. So this happened in 1994, but the city has kind of changed since then, and people are moving on and trying to make their lives in their country better. We see that within the past 26 years, Kigali has turned itself into one of the cleanest and safest cities in Africa.
That's fantastic. And here's an example of how clean it is. Plastic bags aren't allowed, and there's high-speed public Wi-Fi, as well as car-free zones where locals can hang out. This sounds like it sounds better than a lot of cities in the world, never mind just in Africa. So they don't have plastic bags there. I guess it's very environmentally friendly. Bring your cloth shopping bag when you go to the grocery store. And hey, they have high-speed public Wi-Fi all over the place, so that's fantastic. And car-free zones where locals can hang out. It's very pedestrian-friendly. It's friendly for people who like to walk or bike around, and that, of course, would make the environment much cleaner. Sounds like a great place. And this is for all the locals to enjoy, but also for visitors, tourists like us. But if you're a local, we're basically talking about a person from that area. You were probably born there, you certainly live there, you grew up there, something like that. If you're looking to find your way around a city, maybe ask a local, because they should know where to go. They should know everything about it because it's their hometown. For example, if you're looking for a good place to eat, try to ask a local. They will maybe know a few of the places that aren't in the guidebooks, and they'll certainly point you to more interesting places than the local McDonald's or something like that.
So locals like to hang out in these car-free zones. Hang out means to spend time together in a casual, relaxed way. You meet up without any real purpose. You're just being together, talking and having fun. You're not saying we're going to have a meeting or let's get together to discuss a vacation. It's more like, hey, let's meet up. Let's have a bit of food, something to drink, catch up, have a chat, and so on. Okay, so that's what hanging out means, and as Mike mentioned, asking a local is a good way to find good food. So let's get into some food in Rwanda.
Wow, okay. It says, at lunchtime, Kigali restaurants serve mouth-watering dishes like akabenz, a pork dish known as the Mercedes-Benz of meat.
Ooh,
I'm looking at a picture right now, and it looks pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure I'd like to try some. Looks like pork with some bananas or plantains on the side and some, delicious little side dishes there. Absolutely delicious. As long as you're a meat eater, it's definitely something you might want to try for a lunch. And hey, it's described as the Mercedes-Benz of meat. Now, they're not saying that it's made of a car or they use a car to cook the meat or anything like that. We're using Mercedes-Benz as a luxury car, as a really high class, really good car. So if something is described as the Mercedes-Benz or the Rolls-Royce of something, we're just saying it's really good. It's top of the line. It's one of the best you can find. In this case, it's one of the best meat dishes that you can find. And hey, why not try it out for lunch or lunchtime? So when we're talking about lunchtime, we're just talking about around noon, around 12 o'clock, that time when most people have lunch.
Okay, and if you want to have something in the evening, here's another place you can check out, or places. The article says, meanwhile, Kigali's rooftop cafes are the perfect place to watch the sunset.
Sounds great.
Yep, so describing something as a rooftop cafe means it's up at the top of the building. You know, we're used to seeing places on the ground floor, the first floor of buildings. You walk in off the street, and there you are, and you're in the place. Here, you'd have to go up some stairs up to the top because they're on top of the roof. They're open to the air. Maybe they have a little bit of a small ceiling, but there'd certainly be an outside area where you can just stand under the sky without any roof above your head. That's what you'd expect from a rooftop or a rooftop cafe, a rooftop restaurant, something like that, right at the top of a building.
And imagine that, of course, since there are very few cars downtown, the air would be nice and clean. Maybe the sun's going down, giving you this wonderful sunset with great colors across the sky. And then it says, take in this incredible view and you'll understand the locals' favorite saying. We'll get to that saying in a moment, but let's spend a little bit of time just to take in the view. If you take in something, it's kind of like you're experiencing it and you're slowing down a little bit to really experience it. You're not just like, yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, what's for lunch? Or what's for dinner? No, you're like, sitting back. Maybe, you stop talking to your friends for a few moments and you really just sit there and enjoy it, just to savor the experience. Really just take it in, really enjoy it in a kind of profound way rather than just glancing at it and moving on with your life. No, you stop, you slow down really, really to create a good memory maybe for yourself. Also, if you're taking something in. And you're taking in here the incredible view.
Yep, the word incredible is used to describe something that is really, really, really good. It's so good to the point where it might not even seem real or believable. It stretches your credibility, which is your believability, your ability to believe that something is true. So incredible could mean unbelievable, but most of the time we use incredible just to mean really, really good.
And let's look at that saying that some of the locals will say about their homeland, and it shows us how much they love their homeland and how special they think it is. The saying is, God spends the day elsewhere, but he sleeps in Rwanda. Oh, that's lovely. So they're basically saying, a lot of the other world, the rest of the world, the other parts of the world are great, and God goes there. They've been blessed by God. You can find beautiful places in other parts of the world. But when God wants to sleep, he comes to Rwanda. Probably talking a little bit about the sunset in the evening in that country and how beautiful it is and how wonderful the temperature is and stuff like that. But basically, God travels around, but this is his home. We always go back to our home to sleep, don't we? So if God is visiting other places, at the end of the day, he'll come back to Rwanda once he's done his business elsewhere. Elsewhere is an adverb we can use just to talk about another place, not here. What are you going to do for your holiday? I don't know. Are you going to spend it here? No, I think I'll go elsewhere. I'm not really saying where I'm going to go. It might be, just down south. I'm going to drive for an hour somewhere, or it might be another country. Doesn't really matter. It's just not here. For example, they don't sell umbrellas in this store. We'll have to look elsewhere. Many other stores sell umbrellas. We don't really have to choose one or name one. We just know it's not here.
That's right. And we're going to leave God's country of Rwanda now and go to today's For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So the question is, imagine you have a visitor who is arriving in Taiwan tomorrow and has never been here before. Where will you take them on their first day in the country and why? Now, I'm sure I've been in this situation with family.
Being a tour guide in Taiwan.
Yep. So where I've taken people on their first day. Depends how tired they are. If they're not if they're too tired, I won't take them to a night market. But I'll put that pretty early on the list. Not Shilin these days. I would probably go to Laohe night market in Taipei.
Yep.
101, I suppose. Yeah, it's usually fairly quick, or a temple. Longshan Temple, Xintian Temple near where I live.
Oh, those are all very good choices. But yeah, I think a night market is probably one of the best choices. You can go there for just a few hours. It can be, an easy thing to do even when people are still a little tired or jet-lagged from traveling. Because really, in most North American countries or North American cities and European cities too, they don't really have anything like night markets. So they are actually kind of fun, interesting places to go. As long as your friend is a little bit adventurous and doesn't mind trying some unusual food. I did have a friend here from Canada, and she walked around the night market going, no, don't want to try that, no. So it was a little frustrating. So you have to have a friend or a visitor with a sense of adventure, but a night market is a good first spot to visit.
I often take my family when they come the first night they're here. I often take them for a rechao.
Oh, okay.
Because it's kind of like local food, but they can eat a lot, they can eat a little, they can have a drink, they can sit down and not walk around, and they're surrounded by kind of locals. So it does feel like a very kind of Taiwanese experience.
And of course, the other fun thing is once it comes to paying the bill, your friends will all go, oh, that's so cheap.
Yeah.
So that's another fun thing for them to experience in their first day or evening in Taiwan.
Exactly. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening, everybody. For English for You, I'm Pat.
And I'm Mike.
We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Rwanda, Africa's land of 1,000 hills. Most journeys through Rwanda begin and end at its capital, Kigali. Even for those eager to see the country's nature, this city has its own adventures. Stick around and you'll experience great food, an excellent coffee culture, and a sobering lesson about the nation's dark past. Located a short drive from downtown, the Kigali Genocide Memorial remembers one of the most horrific events in human history. From April to July 1994, an estimated 800,000 people were slaughtered in the Rwandan genocide. Most of them were members of the Tutsi tribe, Rwanda's largest minority group. The memorial serves as both a museum and the final resting place of 250,000 victims. Within the past 26 years, Kigali has turned itself into one of the cleanest and safest cities in Africa. Plastic bags aren't allowed, and there's high-speed public Wi-Fi, as well as car-free zones where locals can hang out. At lunchtime, Kigali's restaurants serve mouth-watering dishes like akabenz, a pork dish known as the Mercedes-Benz of meat. Meanwhile, Kigali's rooftop cafes are the perfect place to watch the sunset. Take in this incredible view, and you'll understand the locals' favorite saying, God spends the day elsewhere, but he sleeps in Rwanda.
Vocabulary Review.
Eager. Daniel was eager for his exams to be over and for summer vacation to begin. Adventure. Riding a bike across Taiwan is an adventure that George hopes to experience one day. Tribe. Abao is a famous singer from Taiwan's Paiwan tribe whose members mainly live in Pingtung and Taitung. Minority. Indonesians make up a big part of Taiwan's Southeast Asian minority. Local. Even though she is a local, Casey can't find her way around Taipei without a map. Elsewhere. When she couldn't find a good job in her hometown, Emma started looking elsewhere in the country.
智慧小补帖
Sobering. Horrific. Slaughter. Rooftop. Incredible.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作。活 活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net